pronounce your last name for me? I want to make sure I put the emphasis in the right place.
Sure. It's Nicolo.
Aha. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, accent on the
There we go.
Nick. Like yeah, like Michelob.
Okay,
Michelob.
awesome. Well, Joe, I just want to thank you so much for responding to my outreach. I'm a huge fan of all that you've done, and thought it would be great to just talk a little bit about, you know, your career, what you've done, and what you're currently working on. So why don't we start with kind of a basic question? Since you have done so many things, how would you describe yourself as it relates to music?
um, well, I mean, I'm a I'm a producer slash A&R guy. I really can't call myself. I'm not an artist and I'm not a musician, but I guess I'm a really good manager. Okay, and I think sometimes I make some good decisions, and sometimes I don't. So, but I think of myself uh, as a producer first, and then the favorite my favorite thing to do really is to actually the actual mixing of records is my favorite thing to do. And yeah, of course, we're going to mention RuffHouse Records, I'm sure, in the conversation. And the way I A&R'd the records on RuffHouse was I mixed them. Um, and I guess your audience does understand what mixing is. You're taking all the elements of the record: bass, drums, guitar, loops, samples, rap, vocals, and you're putting it all together in one cohesive mess so that people enjoy it. Uh, that's my favorite thing to do, especially when something is thrown at me and it's like, Joe, can you spill some blood on this? Because it's like right now it's kind of a mess,
Mhm.
and I just love that
Yeah.
aspect of what I.
Yeah, I can see like your whole face lights up when you talk about it. And that's always true when someone's sharing things that they really, really connect with. Um,
Mhm.
so there's so many places we could go with this conversation, but I do want to kind of hang on that mixing piece for just a little bit. Um, and I don't know how you feel about, the name that you were given a long time ago, the Butcher. Is that where that came from? The work that you were doing to kind of piece together different elements?
I can tell you exactly how it started. 1986, I did a record for it was either Fourth and Broadway. It was a smaller New York label, and the song was called "Fantasy Machines." And at that point, I started getting known as somebody who did dance remixes, and edited a lot of tape, because back then, it was analog tape, and you had to razor
Mm-hmm.
blade the pieces and stick it together. And Ray Monahan, who has passed away quite a long time ago, was the producer, and he said, "You should have a handle. You should call yourself something." And he's like, "How about Joe the Butcher, because you butcher tape?" And I was like, "My dad is a real butcher in Conshohocken, which is where Roughhouse and Studio 4 wound
Mm-hmm.
up, across the street from where Joe the Butcher Sr. had his butcher shop. So I'm Joe the Butcher Jr. for a number of reasons, and that's why I'm called Joe the
Oh,
Butcher."
that family connection is so great. That makes it even better, honestly, to have that tie-in. So, full disclosure, I'm from New Jersey, Central Jersey. Kevin is from Baltimore. So, we appreciate your kind of where you come from, and just that whole part of the country, and you know uh, kind of what it means to be from that area. Um, I did radio for a long time, and when I first started, I was working with cut and paste, reel to reel stuff too. And there is something really special about it. Do you miss kind of being able to work that way, or at this point, are you like good on the digital stuff? Like, what's your preference?
Um, um, I hope this doesn't hurt anyone's feelings, but I don't ever want to go back to analog ever again. It's like, don't you, Joe? Don't you want to go back to the original butcher dentistry days where they had no Novocaine and they pulled teeth out when you had a headache? I'm like, are you out of your freaking mind? And the reason why I say that is because today, and it's like, well, there's too many choices. Well, and again, you can see how excited I get, and I pull my sleeves up. Oh, Cypress Hill, the Beatles. We'll get back. Okay, one thing at a time. I'm all over the place, but that's okay. Anyway, so I'm like, you have the Crayola crayon box with 144 colors, or the single box with six. Don't you miss the one with six? I mean, it makes you decide whether it's going to be yellow or blue. No, 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 I don't. Okay. If something is a mess, the vocals are in the wrong spot. The intro is too long. There's no break. The song goes too long. I can go whoosh, 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 as Joe the Butcher with razor blades. Just to do that would take me a day. And then it's non-destructive. So it's like, nah, it was better the other way. Or you make a mistake and you go, what a great accident.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, do I miss the analog sound? Somewhat, but here, I have all my analog stuff, my Neves, and stuff to record with. So there's a long drawn out answer, and the answer is no, I don't miss it.
I appreciate that so much because, we do talk to a lot of people, and I think that when we're speaking with the musicians, they're going to have one perspective on it because they're not doing the work that you do. So for them,
Correct.
their perspective on it is just through a different lens. And by and large, almost all of them are going to say, oh yeah, just like what you're sharing. Yeah, we really want to go back, but they're not sitting there making those
Sure.
edits.
Exactly. And I'm looking at it also through, like, I'm a producer, I'm an engineer. If you're an audiophile, it's important to you, and I get that, okay? But if I want to record a hit song, I don't care if I record it on a cassette machine or on digital, or if I use a crappy microphone. Phil Ramone was like, give me a Shure SM7 instead of a Telefunken 251 if I'm going to get an amazing vocal. What the hell is a Telefunken 251 going to do for me? With Billy Joel's going to cut an amazing vocal on a crappy microphone. But I understand
Mhm.
it's different for everybody, and I don't belittle the audiophiles who love that. If you love it, man, that's great. That's great.
So thinking back, the work you do is kind of like you're integrating all of these different elements together. Do you ever get pushback from the artists about the choices you make? Like, how do you handle their vision of what they think they want something to be? Does that ever come into play?
Uh, yeah, it does, and I'm extremely sensitive
Mhm.
to uh, what an artist's point of view is, because a lot of times they're right. Now, I can be a little more if I'm the A&R guy, and it's like, man, this is just not going to work. Trust me on this. But if they're vehement about it, a lot of times they're right. I'll give you a good example. Um, I'm sure you know "Killing Me Softly" by the
Mhm.
Fugees, right? When I first got uh, uh, the first rough mix of that song, Lauren sings the beginning. There's the bass, there's the beat, and then in the second verse, there's no bass. There's just a beat with Lauren. And I said to Wyclef, dude, the energy just kind of, if it falls out. You gotta. If it's not a bass, you have to introduce something in that second verse because you're losing the energy. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, he's like, have you listened to her vocal? I don't want anything under that but the beat. I'm not putting anything under there. And I was like, are you sure, man? He's like, yep, I'm sure. Well, if you listen to that record in the second verse, all there is the beat. Was he right? No further questions, Your Honor.
That's a good example. And I think, those working relationships have to be so important to be able to get through those moments, like the trust that people must have in you to be able to make decisions, but also that you're going to listen to them, when it's in those kind of moments.
Sure. And then you have other people who don't care
Mhm.
in the least. And again, I'm going to drop names, but I'm going to also give you like um, River of Dreams, Billy Joel River of Dreams. Uh, they hated that. Okay, they hated. No one liked the record. Danny Korchmar, Cooch, wonderful guy. I mean, look at all the stuff he's done. He's an amazing guy. But it's like we don't like this. So I took it over and replaced everything but Billy and his piano. And and as I was starting on working on it, I was like, okay, Billy, how do you want me to approach this? He's like, I don't care what you do to it. You can take it to hell in a handbasket. I don't care. I wrote the song. You're gonna take it on. You do whatever you want to do, and that's what I did.
Wow.
So just different, he didn't
Mm.
care. Not that he didn't care, and I'm sure if he didn't like it, he would have said. But I guess he liked it.
Yeah. Well, he knows it's also kind of knowing your role in the process too. It sounds like some people, really have that kind of clearly marked where their work kind of ends for the moment and then someone else, picks it up, which is harder for some people than others.
So, some people like to micromanage, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I don't watch it from 35,000 feet, but 10,000 feet. You know.
Right on. So, I was kind of curious. I was thinking about this conversation and all the different things that we could talk about, and um, I think that one of the things that fascinates me most about your history is, there's the music part of it, and then there's the business side, and those two things I think, have similarities in some ways, but being able to found, start something like RuffHouse Records and kind of the legacy and the notoriety that it has to me is just as much about business acumen as it is about the music. I don't know if you agree with that, but I guess I'm curious to know, like, when that was first happening, did you feel that you had kind of the business side of things covered, or were you going at it purely from I want to be able to make this music the way that I want to do it?
Wow, that's a really good question. It was definitely more the music side because that's the side I was coming from. Um, and it was gratifying where close to the beginning because we started having some success early on with Rough House. They they just kind of let us do what we wanted to do, and then when first our first number one rap single was Tim Dog, "Fuck Compton," which I guess I can say
Oh
on
yeah,
this,
you're good.
in the internet on the interweb. But then soon after that, Cypress Hill broke. I mean, and they weren't big. These acts were huge. They were entering the charts at number one kind of records. And then there was Crisscross. Then there was the Fugees and Lauryn Hill and Wyclef. And so yeah, they just gave us free reign. Um, and they also knew that because we were still kind of independent label, we could do things that Sony didn't feel comfortable in doing. So that gave them a little bit of an out, but uh, they were just it was a great machine to be a part of because they knew how to make a big record a huge record. Um, so that was it was a roller coaster ride I shall not soon forget.
I'd imagine, and I think to myself, I wonder if that could even happen in 2024 that way.
Wow. That's a good question. I don't know. We're so we're so separated, splintered, and disgusted with people in music, in politics, in, you know, um, we become so polarized, and it's hard to say. I guess today it's more the TikTok making something viral, and what that means, but um, the universal acceptance has just gotten so much. It's just so narrow, and that can be frustrating. At the same time, um, it's like there's a plethora of things that you can experience now. When I was a kid, we had three channels: NBC, CBS, and ABC. Okay, now who was it? Pink Floyd that said there's 900 channels of shit out there. But and that's true. But there's like 75 channels of amazing shit out there. And what totally well, I'm not sounding like, oh god, the music today is wonderful. There is music today that is fascinating, wonderful, just something you can suck up and get into. But the music that's being not okay, the music that people like today is so narrow to me. It's just so narrow. I mean, music is a banquet, and most listeners today are starving to death.
Mm.
I mean, when I say most, I mean that buying. I love the buying public, okay, and it's like, and not to get onto that soapbox, but but it's like people who are like, well, if you just gave them good stuff to listen to, uh, they'll accept it and listen to it. It's like, no, they don't. I see playlists. I see, it's like, can you get me on these good Spotify senior playlists? And it's like, yep. And it's gonna drop to 1 million streaming listeners, and they go, yeah, oh, no, I want this bullshit. It's like, so okay, so you feed them bullshit. So whose fault is that?
Mm-hmm.
Society? I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want a joke? You want to hear a joke?
Totally.
You want to hear a joke? Okay. This is going to be terrible. You can cut this part out. A Republican senator and a Republican congressman jump off a cliff to see who was going to land first. Who wins?
Oh God, I don't know who wins. Does anyone win?
Society.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
all win.
Society. Okay, you can get that. I can't get. I can't get. I have a foundation. Okay, we're wasting time. Go ahead.
No. I mean,
I don't want to waste your time. We're going to have part 3, then we're going to do part 2 in a bit. All right. Go ahead.
I always like to think about back in olden times. You had, your $15, your $10 to go buy a record, and you became Team AC/DC or Team Judas Priest because you invested into that record. Now I can go listen to everybody's new album. I can hear 10 people's new albums in a day, and it all gets lost kind of in my head.
Yeah. No, man, it's the beauty and the curse of having so many choices. I mean, it's like the most recent record. It's like, I put on the Rolling Stones record. Yeah, okay. McCartney song. Not so good. And then it's like, then I got stuck in my car, and and it's like, and I actually stuck in. Yeah. And I live in Audubon, Pennsylvania. I mean, Valley Forge. I live in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. Anyway, and it's like, no, man, fucking listen to it. Listen to it like you used to listen to a Stones or a Beatles record. Listen to it, and I'm like, this is a lot. Oh, is it Beggar's Banquet? No, but it's really good. Give it a little bit of time, and society does not have time. TikTok gives you 18 seconds before you go. And me too. I'm like, well, no. I want to see the cat. I want to see the cute cat with the hat on. You know,
Yeah.
or the monkey. The monkey eating. The corn on the cob.
So
What monkey eating corn? What aren't we talking about music here? What's wrong with you people? Keep me on point. What else you want to talk about?
all right, I have a question, and this is maybe more of a question to ask your reaction. So I remember years ago I was listening to an interview with Rick Rubin, and I don't know why this stuck in my mind, but he said that the way he listens to music, let's say something comes across his desk new, or he's trying to listen to a mix, lying down barefoot in a dark room or in the car, those were the two places, and it's always just stuck with me that he prefers to listen to things. Do you have anything like that? Like, do you have a special way or a certain way that you kind of absorb music that's coming to you?
Yeah. I love my bar. I have a bar. I have a beach house and I have a house. I'm in. My wife let me build a studio in our backyard. This is where I am today. Um, she's great. Trust me. Living 42 years with me, I don't know how she does it. But anyway, so I I love listening to music in my because that's where I congregate with people. That's where we sing. Brandy, you're a fine girl, and it's like that's where if I get something here and I listen to it in my control room, I'm like, wow, I think this is really cool. Is it I My immediate focus after that is this me or is anybody else going to like this? So I'll stick it on my local Spotify playlist, iPad, and people pick songs to play as we're sitting there. I'll put that song on and I won't say anything and I'll just see how people react.
Mm.
I'm working with this band from Cleveland and they have a song called Are You a Boy or a Girl? And the vocal, you can't tell if it's sung by a boy or a girl, it's a guy. And I'm like, I really like this song. So just this Saturday night, I stuck it on, and uh, Cam is 28, Matt is 33, Lindsay is 40, my son is 40, my wife's 71, Jim is 65, and I just stuck it on, and everybody was like, "Wow, this is cool," and they try to Shazam it, and it's like you're not going to find it. It's like, can you? Oh man, can you email me that? I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. There's something there. Um, but yeah, I mean that's kind of like my research. But like sitting here in the quiet in my control room behind the speakers with my eyes closed is where I've always. That's where I mix. That's my environment.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much how I do what Mr. Rubin does.
Maybe with socks on though.
I mean, I'm barefoot in the summertime, but
Personal preferences. I get
it's
it.
a,
I get it.
hey man, his legacy precedes
Yeah.
him. You know, have you seen like the 500 songs he did with oh it um oh oh my god. Okay, moving on. I'll remember. Go ahead. Not 550.
Well, how do you choose then, who to work with? I should probably start by saying, can you tell us a little bit about some of the work that you're currently doing? You just mentioned one thing. What else do you have going on, these days?
Um, I've been producing the Bacon brothers, Kevin and Michael Bacon. Matter of fact, I talked to Kevin this morning. That's been a lot of fun. I've got um, I've got two young, like one young 20-year-old black kid, uh, Sky ZNO, and the best way I can describe it, and I hope this doesn't sound racist, but he's a white nerd trapped in a black kid's body who grew up listening to urban music, and the mashup of it is it's alternative. It's really cool. Um, I have these two other young black guys, and they're called brand new sound, and again the mixture is really cool. Um, and two well the it looks like it's not definite, so I guess it doesn't matter because it's not definite, so I does it is or it's not. But I'm going to make not a duet, but a record with features with Taj Mahal, and that is really exciting. I've been talking to Taj about it. I've been talking to Virgin. My label is distributed through Virgin,
Mhm.
which is my foundation. So I'm really excited about that. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to roll, but but I'm talking. The guys from Virgin went to see Taj Friday night in L.A., and we were just like, you can ask just about anybody from Mick Jagger to Taylor Swift to Jelly Roll to do a song with Taj.
Mhm.
You either know he's a legend. There are people, Luke Combs, whoever. But it's like, all right, now be careful what you wish for, because I'm like, how am I gonna approach this? You know, but so I'm scared to death, and I'm thrilled to pieces to see how this is all gonna
Mhm.
roll out. Um, another okay, so I'm sure you remember Jermaine Dupri. Matter of fact,
Absolutely.
he did the Usher. We discovered Crisscross. That was Jermaine was 16 years old, and before that we did a record for Geffen, and we were going to make Jermaine an act. He was going to be an artist. He was a dancer for Run DMC, and he wrote all the Crisscross songs. So we came up with like 5 or 6 tracks, but then the Crisscross thing happened and we shelved it. Well, I found those multi tracks, and I transferred them, and I started mixing them, right? So I sent him to Jermaine and his dad, Michael Malden, who's kind of Jermaine's manager. And we were like, wow, there's an outro kind of thing about these songs, but they're really good. And we're developing a new 12-year-old group. The, but it's not like Crisscross 102. They're like amazing soccer players. One kid sings, one kid raps. So we're just in the process of like taking some of those songs, coming up with new songs. That's real early in the process.
Mhm.
Um, and then but not least, but kind of least, I have been working with an artist for 47 years. His name is Terry Roland Smith. I love Terry's material. I've always loved it. But for whatever reason, he never got the breaks,
Mhm.
right? So um I he has a 45 that came out in the late 80s, okay? And I'm getting in such a long involved story. I try to cut
No,
it
no,
down.
go for it.
So
This is great.
I um I have a 45 playing jukebox at the beach house. And my son he's a TikTok influencer. He's got 1 million followers. He's called Mr. Movie. As a matter of fact, he came in 7th last year as TikTok movie reviewers. Anyway, so he's a big influencer. So I'm playing it. So I push this, and Terry's record comes on, and he looks at me and he's like, "Man, I know all the hits from the '80s, but I don't recognize this. Who is this?" I said, "It's Terry Smith." Now he grew up knowing Terry Smith. Terry Smith is recorded at every studio I've ever had. So he's like, "I got an idea. I'm Mr. Movie. What Ty does is he creates fake movies, fake trailers, and fake posters for movies that don't exist. He but Disney sent him to France. I mean, that's he just did a movie. He sold one of his fake ideas to Warner Brothers. That's what he does. So he's like, I'm gonna be Mr. Music, and Terry Smith is going to be an artist from the '80s Mandela effect, who pulled all his music off from the 80s and now wants to come out and re-expose the world with his music. But if you look him up, he's nowhere to be found. And the thing about his music is it's really, really good. So people are going to be confused. Like, so we're going to put up the Terry's Greatest Hits on Spotify, and people are going to be like, "What? I guess." And then to close the story, I had a movie director who contacted me who said, "I need a hit song from the '80s. You know Cyndi Lauper and Billy Joel and all those people. Can I get one of those songs? So maybe that wasn't popular." And I was like, "The record companies are going to drive you nuts." But I have this guy Terry Smith, and I did the whole spiel without telling them the truth. And I sent them Drop Back Jack, and they were like, "Yeah, I do remember this song. Can we use it?" I was like, "Sure." So there you go. But the biggest thing I'm doing right now is my foundation called the Sound Mind Network. Sound Mind Network, I started with Tony Luke Jr., not the bad cheesesteak guy, but the younger cheesesteak guy. Don't get them confused. And basically, Tony lost his son to a heroin overdose about 5 years ago, and it devastated him. And I knew Tony when he was a writer for Atlantic as Tony Lucidonio. So basically, we made an album, and it worked through. It was his therapy. So we decided we were going to change the way the world looks at mental health, suicide, trauma, and drug abuse through music and the arts. And that's what we're doing. And stay right there. Don't go anywhere. Get out of here. Oh, fuck. Of course, it gets stuck. There it is. Where is it? Okay. Wasting time. Okay. So I put together this compilation, Healing Through the Arts. You see there's Cyndi Lauper. Mm-hmm. There's Kathy Sledge. There's Taj Mahal. There's the Bacon Brothers. There's the Hooters. There's Sophie B. Hawkins. Joan Osborne. Jesse Kyle. And all proceeds go to the Sound Mind Network.
Wow. Yeah,
and it's on Spotify. So Bacon Brothers have been great. They did a concert for us last year. They're going to do another concert for us this year. It's really good. We work with a bunch of organizations. Rock to the Future, which I did with Kevin and Michael. 6degrees.org. So it's important to me. I mean, it's like music legacy is great, but if you can save lives, it's a hell of a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and kind of in that same frame of mind, being able to kind of put together like what you just shared with us is such an incredible use of all of those connections that you have that are just inherent based on the work you've done. And I think sometimes for people it's hard to know what to do, so you're giving those artists also something really meaningful that's already in progress. They don't necessarily need to kind of create something completely on their own, which I'm sure is a really good thing for them.
Oh, sure. And everybody is just they're so gracious about helping.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. Kevin, do you have anything? I've been like totally monopolizing conversation.
Can you go in maybe using Crisscross as an example of how you develop a band? How do you find two guys to become Crisscross?
I'll tell you how. Me and Jermaine were working on this group, Silk Times Leather. It was a girl rap group from Atlanta. It was for Geffen. And we went to, I guess it's called the Underground Mall. It's the big mall in Atlanta, right? and there were these two kids standing in line somewhere, and they were the one kid had dreads. I mean, they looked like somebody, and we thought maybe they were in the group ABC, Another Bad Creation, because they were young kids. So we went up to Chris and Chris and said, "Are you guys in a group?" And they were like, "No." It's like, "You want to be in a group?" And, and they were like, "Yeah." "Do you guys rap?" "No." "You want to learn how to rap?" "Yeah." And that's how Crisscross started. Um, so, uh, like Cypress Hill. The first group that I did for get same A&R guy for Geffen was a band called the 7A3, and Muggs was the DJ for 7A3. So I made that record with Muggs and Brett and Shawnee B. Um, Fast forward a couple of years, and out in LA producing the Booyah Tribe. Talking about an experience. And wow. So I'm doing the Booyah Tribe, and Maury Alexander, their manager, says, "Can you work with another act of mine, Mellow Man Ace? I think he's got a hit song. It's called Mentarosa." And I'm like, I listened to it. I'm like, "Yeah, man, this is a hit song." So we do Mentarosa, and at that point, I loved staying with acts. I didn't want to stay at the hotel. I wanted to hang out with the acts. So I go to Mellow Man's house, and he's there with his mom and his brother. And he's like, "I want you to meet my brother. He's got a dope group. Senin, his name's Senin, Sendog, and he's got this group, Cypress Hill." I was like, "Oh," and he's like, "Our producer is Muggs. Do you know Muggs?" I was like, "Yeah, I definitely know Muggs." So I met with Muggs, I met with Be Real, and I was like, "This stuff is great. Stuff is great, man. It's great." So, and that's how like Cypress. That's how Cypress happened.
Mhm.
You know. Um, yeah. So
So it's as much being in the right place at the right time as anything, huh?
I'll tell you what. It's funny you say that because um, when I was working with, okay, here we go, Joe dropping names. When I was working with Billy Joel, he was like, "Dude, we're really good at what we do. I mean, we're really good at what we do, but you and I both know it's dumb shit luck." Okay, it's like there are guys drive back then. There are guys driving the UPS truck who can sing and write better than us. Terry Rowan Smith. Okay, and it's just like dumb shit luck, man.
Mhm.
And it's very true. It's just, but it's very true in almost so many aspects of life. You know what I mean? Walk, just right place at the right time.
Mhm.
So it's so definitely true, Kevin.
We spend a fair amount of time on this show talking about live music. That's a really big component of the music scene that Kevin and I are probably these days most closely aligned with. Jam bands is kind of the term for it, and that encompasses a lot of different subgenres. It can go jazz, it can go funk, bluegrass. I mean, kind of pick
EMD,
your sound.
EDM, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
EDM, like
Sure.
like the guiding force of all of that is a kind of a focus on the live music experience. And I don't know. We always kind of try to figure out how that plays into then recording, because they seem so at odds with each other in some way. But I don't know. You know, I don't know if they have to be. Do you have any thoughts
Wow.
on that?
Um, it totally depends on the act.
Yeah.
Some acts are just made to perform, and they're made to be seen. I guess sometimes it can break apart into artist or entertainer, and then you have that amazing time when like they mesh. You know, uh, Frank Sinatra and Elvis and Whitney Houston were amazing entertainers. The Beatles, Stevie Wonder, Phil, Smokey Robinson, they were amazing entertainers and artists, and it locked together. So, you know, it's so I'm sure you obviously you've gone to shows where you're like blew me away, and other shows that was just like, wow, that's sort of sucked. Why is that? You know, and sometimes it's funny, man, because like sometimes it's just the music that takes you away. Like two of the my favorite concerts that I went to in the past couple of years, and there was not a lot of laser light. There wasn't a lot of shaking around. Was King Crimson and Moody Blues, but the music spoke to me. Like everybody in the audience was like a nerd like me who wanted to hear the music. If I want to see somebody shake their ass, I'll go see 21 Savage. Not 21 Savage. That's a bad example. I'll, Lady Gaga,
Right.
okay, who is an artist. She's not an entertainer. She's an artist. Okay. Cher is an artist. Okay. Um, so yeah, I guess it depends on the act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I find that the biggest issue that a lot of jam bands for me is it's twofold thing. They go in the studio and they want to recreate what they do live instead of paring it down to a 4 minute. This is what the artifact is. This is the basic of the song. And the other part is the lyrics are always hurting. They don't have. I feel like
It's rare.
I don't know. I think the Grateful Dead was so successful because they had an outside lyricist. It didn't fall on them to write the lyrics.
Right, right. So did that guy. What's his name? Elton. That Elton John.
Mm-hmm. Right,
You know,
exactly. Bernie Taupin. Yep, yeah.
Yep.
sure. And it's like, and sometimes again, John Lennon was one of the best. The Beatles were great at the lyrics didn't make any sense, but they made all the sense in the world. You know,
Yeah.
and I do miss that. I do miss that aspect, that avant-garde side where, especially in urban music right now, it's it's a lot of unique storytelling, but I'm like, guys, just like there's like 16 shows on Netflix that are all murder mysteries, and they're good, but I want to see a resident alien. I want to laugh once in a while. You know what I mean? So it's like it's just too much the same, and it's not bad. Okay, and some of it, the good stuff is quite good. 21 Savage is good. I'm not saying it's just like that music that's crap. That's noise. No, no, no. But it's like steak, uh, sirloin, prime rib. It's like it's not even like chicken or shellfish. Let alone vegetables or green. You know what I mean? It's like it's steak. It isn't even chicken. Give me a little chicken. And now I sound like a ranting, a ranting geezer, but it's okay.
Well, you're
It's
right.
my
You're right, though.
opinion.
I mean, there's definitely, at least for me, and I, am definitely not the person that would know everything that's happening mainstream wise, but yeah, it's similar feel maybe to a lot of things, um, and when you hear something that's really different, even if it's maybe not something that you'd necessarily go for, like personal taste, it really wakes you up, you know, because you're like, wow, that's
Yeah.
super unique, or I just haven't heard that in a long time.
And it could be something that Kevin alluded to earlier too, and maybe I'm falling prey to it. Maybe like with the Rolling Stones record, maybe you have to listen to it a bunch of times to get the nuance, because it's like sounds the same, sounds the same, sounds the same. So I'm like, well, wait a minute. Maybe you're misjudging it, you know. And like I've always said, I may be wrong, but I'm not.
Well, I remember when Cypress Hill put out their second album, it was a little bit harder, the soundscape behind it, and I was a little bit I want the first album again. And it took me going through it a few times, popping the cassette on, flipping it a few times before I was like, oh, it's still there. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it was kind of it was somewhat of an evolution, and it's funny because the first that whole process was an evolution from the first songs we did through the second record, because three or four of the songs on the second record we recorded for the first record. It's just that we were in such a groove. It was, we just, let's just keep recording. Let's keep recording. So, some of that, some of that stuff was just the natural evolution of the band that just happened to happen, 15 songs into the recording process,
Mm-hmm.
where we were starting to feel what that sound was,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes.
and we stopped mixing on mushrooms, so that was that helped.
Dude, the Duke of Earl is just so brilliant. The one song that has the Duke of Earl sample is
Sawed off shotgun, hand on the pump. Yikes. All righty then.
well, what does Duke of Earl have to do with this?
Um, Nothing at all.
Love it.
No, right. It hits from the bong. I mean, that sample is just like,
That was you?
that was a real bong. That's a real water bong on the console that we bubbled many, many, many times. Oh man, we used to work early. We used to get up. We used to work out in the gym. Have a good breakfast, and We'd start like early. I mean, we would get going like 10 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
work blaze, and work really hard all day till, like, we were not like working the middle of the night high god kind of thing. We worked hard during the day, and then at about 7 o'clock we'd knock off and maybe like go out to the clubs, or Sendin used to love to go. It was a Cuban club, amazing place, just with amazing drinks, and everybody would get dressed up, and you had, the horn section and the band, and it was just like, what, those are wonderful memories.
Wow. I have kind of one more question slash comment just from what you were talking about around evolution. Because Kevin, I think you made a really good point that, you know, people like things that are familiar to them generally. That's just kind of a human thing. And sometimes you have to push yourself to, make room for something that feels different. And sometimes I actually really do feel for artists and others who are really looking to go in a different direction that feels different to us. Maybe for them it's always been there. Was it who was it that came out with that album? Was it Andre 3000? We talked about it on the show, Kevin.
Oh, with the flute?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Whole flute album.
I mean, that's been living inside of him. We haven't seen that yet. And I'm just wondering if there's ever like a moment of doubt for an artist, like, is this going to work for me? Or maybe it's just, I have to do it because it's what I feel.
Wow. I think it happens with every artist, regardless of whether it's stepping out into something new, or now you have to deliver. The next record has to be as big as the one that
Mhm.
preceded it, and the pressures of like having to deliver. The tired phrase is like, an act has their entire lives to come up with the first record and 9 months to come up with the second,
Mm.
and it that's so true. you know um and even when I'm I'll be working on something that, whatever it is, whether it's important to the record company or it's important to me personally, and you reach that moment where you go, this sounds this sucks. This is like, not, relax, turn it off, go in, watch Jeopardy Champions, you
Mhm.
know
Yep.
take a chill pill. Don't even go back to, leave it, because I can walk right over there in my bathrobe, come back here, and just, hit the button, and you're just like, see, it wasn't as bad as you thought. you know
How do you know when a song's done?
oh, wow. That's a good question. uh when when I walk out and I come back and I listen to it and I don't want to change it, and I come back and I listen to it and I don't want to change it. Um, and some songs are like, it's like an oven stuffer roaster. It's like boop, the thing popped up and you're like, it's done. Other times I'm looking in the oven and I'm like, it's not.
Can't tell. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
That's it's stuck. It's stuck in the grease. It's not popping up. It's stuck. Um, and then you do your best. Like I'm working with a song right now. It's called "Hello Woman," and I just keep fighting with this thing, and it's just like other songs, or it's just like, oh yeah, this is great. Before it, it's like the magic dust, the psychic, psycho, physical, physics, karma just didn't land on this song right, and it's never gonna be perfect, you know. But and that's the other thing too. But in terms of like the listening public, it'll be somebody's favorite song,
Right.
you know, and it's like, oh, the hi hat and the tambourine are too loud. Well, uh, Buffy and Muffy in Rensselaer, Indiana, 17-year-olds, mind you, they've never gotten on their phones and went, "Oh my God, did you hear that sibilance on the hi hat? Ugh, and that tambourine. What were they thinking?" That conversation has never taken place and will never take place. Okay. He's so cute. Oh my God. Or she's so cute. I don't want to, it's like I want to be fair. It's like could be she, him, it, her. I don't care. You could call yourself a carrot. What do I care? It makes you happy. You call yourself it. I don't
There
care.
you go.
It's great.
But that's so true though. I mean, we always say, it's like when you're planning a wedding or a big party, the guests don't know what you really wanted. Things could have changed 180 degrees. They're there at the moment, with what's in front of them. And if it's good, then they're going to like it. And that other stuff resides with the people who made it.
Right. Right. So many people liked the second Urge. Me and Phil did two Urge Overkill records. We did Saturation and Exit to Dragon. And to me, Exit to Dragon. I mean, they were Ed and Nash. They lunged at each other in a bar, and Nash was choking Ed off of the bar stool, and Phil was working with Ed in one studio. I was working with Nash in another studio, and that record was just it was difficult to the second one was difficult to make, and there's so many people who like that record better than the first, and I'm like, would you put the glue down, just put the glue down. It's like cap the glue, put it back in your drawer, because I may be wrong, but I'm not. No, just kidding. Squat that rabbit. Squat that rabbit. Anyway.
Oh, Joe, I
Okay.
I don't want to. I feel like we've taken up like so much of your time. I mean, I could talk to you for hours, but I want to make sure you know how much this means to me. That we were able to do this today. I just have so much respect for not only the work, but just the way you approach it and your your honesty and just being so forthright about everything. So thank you so much.
The pleasure was all mine. You can see how I just hate talking about myself and saying, and I'm just, I'm an introvert. Okay, I'm inaccessible.
Kevin
So
and I both are
thank
too,
you,
so we know.
thank you. And if you ever want to do this again, I got more
Yeah,
stuff.
I was gonna say when you have some new stuff coming up, we'd be more than happy to have you come on and talk about 6 months from now what's been happening. Do a catch up.
Yeah, I'll check
Sure.
in with you for sure. And Kevin does a really great job of taking the bigger conversation and kind of putting it into some manageable content chunks for people. So we'll let you know when whatever the first part of that is that kind of drops. We'll make sure to share that with you. And I just
That'd be great.
yeah, I just can't thank you enough.
Great.
All right,